When you ask people to describe Jesus, or if they're gifted artistically, you ask them to draw Jesus, there are a number of features you almost always see. A beard, a white robe, long hair and sandals. That's how he exists in our shared consciousness. Now, I've seen some wonderful pictures of Jesus that portray him in different ways, and last Thursday I spoke briefly about Thomas Schmaltz's statue, Homeless Jesus. But I've also seen other artworks which depict him as African or South American, or as a punk or in contemporary clothing and so on. I've also seen some that are far more likely to be realistic, which picture him less as the handsome Caucasian man that we're used to seeing, and more obviously Jewish and with a Middle Eastern complexion. But each of these images still has something of a shock value, because Jesus exists in our minds in a very specific way, with a beard, a white robe, long hair and sandals. Though there may be many things wrong with the stereotypical physical image of Jesus that we tend to imagine, the wearing of shoes or sandals is not one of them. The Bible even mentions them.
John 1:26-28 says, John answered them, I baptize with water, but among you stands one you do not know, even he who comes after me, the strap of whose sandal I am not worthy to untie. These things took place in Bethany across the Jordan, where John was baptizing.
But have you ever wondered why Jesus wore sandals? And not sandals specifically, but why he wore shoes at all? Welcome to Selah Time to Pause, a daily podcast encouraging us all to take time out each weekday in the midst of our lives to pause, to catch our breath, draw near to God and refresh our spirits.
I will stop and breathe in your presence. Just breathe. Just breathe.
There's another image of Jesus that we tend to hold in our heads too. This image is less about physical attributes and more about his character traits and personality. It's found in the idea that he never experienced any real trouble. We imagine that he led a truly charmed life, overcoming opposition at every point, always having the perfect comeback for the Pharisees and easily seeing through their traps, never wondering where his next meal would come from, despite not coming from a wealthy family, having no job and owning no home. And what's more, every meal would be delicious and he would never suffer from any of the symptoms of food poisoning. He made good friends easily, would often wander along whistling a happy tune of some Christian hymn that was yet to be written. His jokes were always funny. His favourite gladiator was always top of the league. He never got out of bed on the wrong side. Cats and dogs and children loved him, and bluebirds tucked him in each night. Even though he grew up as Joseph the carpenter's son, we don't imagine that he would have learned about splinters and sharp tools the hard way, and we can scarcely imagine that he would have had the scars to prove it. And we certainly never, ever envisage Jesus stubbing his toe and hopping round holding it, or banging his shin on a branch in the road, or tripping up and landing with an outstretched hand on a sharp stone, or even having a headache. Not even getting cold and wet feet from stepping into a muddy puddle, for he could walk on water. To believe any of these things seems almost sacrilegious and definitely absurd. In fact, when we do acknowledge any troubles that Jesus had, we almost invariably limit it to one of two short episodes, either his temptation in the wilderness or his arrest and crucifixion. Apart from those brief times, the Jesus we imagine walked, nay, glided, to all intents and purposes, 6 inches in the air. So why did he need shoes or sandals? But if we allow ourselves to pause for just a moment and think about that quasi-superhero image, we realise that the question of why he wore shoes is actually one of the questions that the devil asked Jesus in the wilderness. And whilst obviously not in that exact form, it is the same question at root.
The devil led him to Jerusalem and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down from here, for it is written, He will command his angels concerning you to guard you carefully. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone."
If you are the Son of God, why do you think the normal rules of life, of pain and suffering, will apply to you? If heavenly angels will protect you from even striking your foot against a stone, why do you wear shoes? If they'll protect you from falling, then why not throw yourself from this balcony? But if the devil wanted him to fall into that trap, then there must be something destructive at the bottom of that pit. And so when we allow ourselves to form this image of the superhero Jesus, we risk crashing against the same rocks. The devil may not have beaten Jesus on the day.
Jesus answered, "It is said, do not put the Lord your God to the test."
But that almost comes to an effective naught if we allow ourselves to believe the lie that Satan wanted Jesus to prove. For Jesus was not some superhero living the ideal life with supernatural safeguards to eliminate any life challenge. He was, as the Salvation Army's fourth doctrine states, truly and properly man. Even the early church considered this question to be one of the most important doctrines of the Christian faith, and sought to clarify and emphasize this vital truth in AD 451 in the Chalcedonian Creed by reaffirming the decisions of previous church councils and explicitly declaring Jesus to be co-essential with us according to his manhood, like us in all things, sin apart. Jesus, in his full, true and proper humanity, is just like us. He did not glide above the earth, nor did he live a set-apart, unassailable life. He ran the same risks as us, experienced the same hardships as us, the same challenges of physicality and mood and spirit. The Old Testament anticipates that the Redeemer of fallen humanity would be one who is both God and man. The New Testament plainly teaches that Jesus Christ is this divine human Redeemer. His humanity is apparent throughout the whole course of his obedience, his conception, birth, development, limitations, suffering, death, burial, resurrection, ascension, ongoing priestly work and final return. They all give powerful testimony to the genuine humanity of Christ. As Hebrews says,
"He is able to sympathize with our weaknesses."
And
"He was like us in every respect."
Jesus was not only fully God, but also fully man, and as such he experienced the fullness of living on earth, warts and perhaps even literal warts too, and all. Jesus is like us in every respect, body, heart, mind and will. How amazing that the divine Son of God would not just take on part of our humanity, but all of it. Jesus took on a human body to save our bodies, and he took a human mind to save our minds. Without becoming man in his emotions, he could not have rescued our hearts, and without taking a human will, he could not save our broken and wandering wills. In the words of Gregory of Nazianzus, that which he has not assumed, he has not healed. He became man in full so that he might save us in full. Have we lost our wonder at the true and full humanity of Christ? In worshipping his deity as we should, have we overlooked how human, how shockingly human, God himself became in Jesus of Nazareth? We need to avoid becoming so focused upon Jesus' divinity that we single-mindedly neglect his humanity. For if we fail to do so, we lose sight of the reality of his incarnation. We lose heart at the call to live as Jesus lived, and we lose fellowship with Christ as our brother. We need a vivid, vibrant conception of his humanity. We need to always remember that Jesus, like us, needed shoes.
He walked where I walked. He stood where I stand. He felt what I feel. He understands. He knows my frailty. Shared my humanity. Tempted in every way. Yet without sin. Suffering injustice, yet he forgives. Wept for my wasted years. He paid for my wickedness. He died in my place, that I might live.
Jesus, God with us, friend and brother, walk beside us. Remind us that in your humanity you share with us all things. Each trial we face you have already endured and overcome in your humanity. Give us hope that we may live like you. Amen.